28, 2016. American Airlines Flight 383 experienced an uncontained engine failure and subsequent fire. There were 161 passengers, 7 flight crew on the plane, 168 people. Several injuries were sustained, and NTSB subsequently issued an extensive investigation. First, the Chairman, can I have entered into the record the investigative report on that record without objection? Without objection? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Lisser, you're familiar with the NTSB's investigative report regarding the flight. How many passengers, there were 168 people on board. Was that the capacity of that plane?
I'd have to check into that. I don't recall if that was a full flight.
So you don't know how many passengers could have flown that plane or a similar flight? Not necessarily.
Could find that.
Thank you. Mr. Barami, let me ask you this. In the investigative report following the accident, the NTSB recommended some passengers evacuated and they took their carry-on bags, and that's a problem. They shouldn't have done that. Does the FAA consider the efficient, timely evacuation of planes an important factor in passenger safety, and how to accomplish that?
Absolutely. We have specific rules that emergency evac must be completed within 90 seconds. And when we conduct that test, we have the maximum passenger loading and adverse situations such as some of the exits are closed and those kinds of situations to make sure that we get as realistic as possible to potential scenarios that may happen in service.
Thank you, sir. 90 seconds is what current federal law requires all passengers to be able to evacuate. In the flight of Flight 383, it took 2 minutes and 21 seconds to evacuate the passengers. 3 exits were operable. The flight was below passenger capacity, yet it took 51 seconds longer, or 63% more time than is permissible under federal regulations. Subsequent to that, post to that, a U.S. Circuit Court decision was issued in July of 2017. And, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the U.S. Court of Appeals decision of July of 2017.
You didn't get me this time without objection.
Thank you, sir. You're familiar with that decision, I presume, Flyers Rights versus USA?
Yes, I am.
In that decision, the panel remarked that the FAA's justifications to reject a public petition to review airline seat safety as a matter of safety risk was vaporous. Even after the dangerous accident involving American Airlines 383, even after the NTSB's clear recommendation to review passenger deplaning times, the FAA took no significant action. Now the U.S. Court of Appeals has ordered the FAA to take action to review the safety impact that changes in seat size and pitch may have. I'm concerned the FAA has not taken seriously the concerns of the National Transportation Safety Board or even the U.S. Court of Appeals decision or this committee, which included a study. Can we expect some study soon on pitch size and width of seats that are getting smaller and smaller and smaller?
As you mentioned, we have the court order to respond, and we are working on that response. It's in the coordination. And I think once that's made public, we know what type of work we need to be doing in order to satisfy the directives that we have.
Well, I hope you'll do it quickly because lives could be in the balance. I'm deeply concerned about the flight safety for the flying public. We shouldn't wait till somebody dies to respond and to take action to make our planes evacuatable, but within the 90 seconds as required by law. Seat size and pitch continue to shrink while the average American gets larger and larger and taller and taller. And while I care about comfort, my Build the Seat Act is focused squarely on the risk of the flying public and safety. This was part of the FAA reauthorization package. Even if airlines did not oppose the amendment, which they didn't, everyone's for safety. I think it should be a grave concern to the American public that the FAA has repeatedly failed to act in accordance to the guidance and recommendations of not only the National Transportation Safety Board, but even the U.S. Court of Appeals. It's clear to me that the American public is on our side and urging your agency to issue standards to keep Americans safe in our skies, and pitch and width is part of that, Mr. Barami, and I hope this administration will do that. If I can have just an extra second. Captain, I want to thank you for your service.
No.
And ask you this. Do you carry a gun in the cockpit?
No, sir, I am not an FFDO.
Okay.
Gentleman's time has expired. Thank you.
I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Nevada for 5 minutes, Ms. Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to follow up on the question earlier about package delivery. I know that you say that there's some plans that are going to be announced in May. I wonder, you don't want to tell me if Nevada's going to get one of those proposals, do you? So I can go back with some good news. But I just worry that all of this is kind of conditional and it's all in the future.